that you mute yourself so that we can all hear. And please make sure to collect your questions because we want to hear what you want to know. We are recording this session. It's going to be on YouTube for people who either want to go and revisit the session or maybe missed it. So,
keep the grab. There we go.
Okay. So we have, I'll introduce everyone. I'm Caroline Wolf, and to my right is Barbara
Reichert.
I wanted to say Rickard, sorry. Reichert, and to my left is Mel Van Patten and Jennifer Raby. I hope everyone will welcome Barbara to our team. We're really happy to have her with us. So I also want everyone to know that Henry Stokes is on, and he can answer any questions that people may have about the subsidies. Henry, do you want to say anything before we get started?
No, just I'm here and happy to answer any questions. So just type those in, or you can reach me. I'll post my email into the chat. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Henry. So we'll get started. So right now, I just wanted to let everyone know how much funding has gone to the Libraries Connecting Texas project this year. $1.3 million has been funded to LCT libraries. That is a huge number. Considering that for all Texas libraries, $3.7 million has been funded. So y'all are really representing Texas. And the total Texas funding is $101.7 million, and the national total is $1.4 billion. So I know that it seems like that's just a little bitty amount, but we're really, really excited about how much funding has gone to the libraries.
He may have to, might send him a chat. You might, I'll chat him while you talk.
Okay. So I want to kind of pass the torch along to Jennifer, who's going to talk a little bit about the E-rate timeline right now.
Okay, so what we currently have going on, just a few things. There are some of you who have not gotten funded just yet. In that case, we just want you to keep an eye out for any review questions from PIA reviewers, and those require a response within 15 days. We're happy to help you answer those questions. So just keep an eye out if you have not received funding yet. And then for 2018-19, we still have some people who I know, and Diane, I did see your question there, and we're happy to help you get started on that process, filling out your BEAR. And again, for services ending June 30th of this year, the deadline to submit for recurring services is October the 28th. So anyone who needs help, just give me a call, and I can help answer any of your questions. And then as far as, there's just a few who are remaining who haven't received funding, but then we also have a few who have not filed their Form 486s just yet. I have reached out to those. So if you have not filed your 486, you have heard from me. And of the ones who we haven't received funding for, I will notify you and remind you that you should have, that when you get your FCDL, and I'll give you some instructions on how to complete that Form 486. And as always, along the way, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, email or phone. I'm happy to help.
Thanks, Jennifer. Mel's going to talk a little bit about the applicant training dates.
Yeah, absolutely. So those of you who are specifically in North Texas, but those of you who like to take road trips, USAC, who is the E-rate program administrators, they are providing 2 days of training in Farmers Branch. So it is a free training. There's no cost to attend. You do lunch on your own. Day 1 is a beginner session. Day 2 is advance. So those of you who've, it would be really beneficial to attend both days if you can. We've got Barbara and Jennifer are planning to go. Caroline's most likely going to be there, and Henry's going to be there also. So you could meet with the whole LCT team and discuss your questions one-on-one and just get to meet us face-to-face, and we would love that opportunity. But these trainings are great if you can attend in person. If you can't, between our training sessions, our webinars, and USAC has some recorded webinars on their website as well, and you can get this similar training online. So if you can't attend, that is okay. If you can, super. Did you have to add about the USAC?
Well, I was just going to say, the USAC training is always a great time to network with other libraries too, because you'll probably see librarians from other places. So just throwing that in.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's not isolated just to people from Texas area. These are nationwide, and so a lot of people are going to be flying in from all over the country because this date or these dates work for them. Along those same lines, we want to help you file your Form 470 for funding year 2020. I know it seems like we just finished the 2019 filings, but it's time to start for the next year. We have held 2 previous webinar workshops to help you file your 470. Caroline has been really good and proactive to reach out to you to notify you if you need a Form 470 for the upcoming year. So those of you who have multi-year contracts that cover the entire 2021 funding year, there's no need to file a 470. But if you've got a contract that's expiring at the end of this current year, then you will need to file a 470 for the next year. We will walk you through the process. Now, this isn't just, we're going to show you how to do it and then you better, follow along at your speed. We're going to walk you through at your pace. And so in advance of tomorrow's our last posted session, our workshop webinar for 470 filing, you can click on the agenda that Caroline sent out to you, and there's a hot link to register for that. And then in advance of that, because we will be working in your EPIC portal, make sure that you can log in and then your password is current. So if you're signed up for tomorrow, sometime in advance of tomorrow's workshop, make sure that you have your login and password and are able to access your EPIC portal.
You may not know this, but passwords expire after, I think, 60 days. And so if you haven't logged into your EPIC profile in a while, they have to your password. So if you're on this and you're within earshot and you're planning on being on that workshop tomorrow, I suggest that after you finish this webinar, that you try to log into your EPIC profile today. And then that way you'll be all ready for tomorrow. I'll be sending an email out just reminding you about the webinar and giving you some information. For those of you who signed up last week and we had a problem with the webinar platform, we've already moved your registration over to the webinar tomorrow. So we aren't sure if you're going to be able to make it or not. So just letting you know that we do have room for you, and we've got 16 people, I think, signed up for the webinar tomorrow. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about the Form 470 and what to do after the Form 470. The Form 470, as we've said before, is a procurement form. So when we file the Form 470, we give service providers information that they can use to give us information about how much it would cost for them to provide internet access. And so once you get all of those and you've reached your allowable contract date or the date that you have set to, and everybody is different about the date that they put as the due date for people to respond to them. So once you've reached that date, you can start responding. I mean, you can start evaluating the responses to your Form 470. So in the meantime, the service providers might reach out to you and ask questions. If they do ask questions, the thing to do, the best practice to do, is to collect those questions and then respond to all of them through the EPC portal. That's one of the reasons why when we run these 470 workshops, we send you a template that you can use as a sample RFP document. What that does is it gives more information about what you're asking for, but it also holds a place for you to be able to answer any questions that service providers might have about the services that you need. This because everybody is supposed to be able to have access to the same information, and when you do that, and you have that question and answer document in there, that means the service providers all have the same information to be able to respond to you. And so after you've collected all of your information and you've reached the end of your procurement period, you are required to do an evaluation. This shows you, SAC, that you have used cost as the most important factor in your evaluation process. We have a template that we send out to you that you can use to do this evaluation. So you can put the description of the service here. It has the year on it right now, 2019-20. This field right here that says lowest price automatically updates, so you don't need to do anything with that. What you need to concentrate on is these blanks where it says insert vendor and price, and then the weight right here. In this evaluation, the evaluation factors show price of eligible products and services as having a 50% weight, meets and understands needs is a 25%, and past performance with the school library, 25%. These are actually, you can toggle them, and they have other suggestions in here that you can use. So you can actually put as many evaluation criteria as you want for your evaluation. The important thing to remember is this one right here that says price of the eligible products and services has to have the highest weight. That shows that you are evaluating the services using cost as the most important factor. So let's pretend that you received a bid from AT&T. Mel, will you help me out?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me give you your keyboard back. Yeah.
Okay. So let's say you received a bid from AT&T, and you received a bid from Spectrum, and you received a bid from, what's another service provider that we can put in here?
Comcast?
Comcast? Okay.
And one thing to add on to what Caroline said, when you can change your criteria, and you don't necessarily even have to pick from the drop down, you can overwrite any of those, or if, you know, create your own individual criteria based upon your local procurement requirements. And you can change the weight percentage, but again, the price of the eligible goods and service doesn't have to be weighted heavier than all the other criteria together. It just has to be weighted higher, the highest criteria.
And you see right here, I put a 30% in here, and it goes to 105%, and that's not really a good idea. So just remember that you want them all down here to equal 100% and not 105%. Yeah. Henry's right. This document it protects you in the event of an audit, or there are other special reviews. Sometimes if PIA thinks that your services cost too much or something like that, sometimes they ask you to provide some more information. So let's say AT&T's price. Now, you may get different bandwidth responses. You may ask, you may have to kind of compare different bandwidths and different prices. So just be aware of that. And also, I think a lot of you are probably laughing because I think most of you don't receive 3 really good responses to your 470s, and I know that sometimes you don't receive any responses to your Form 470. If that's the case, we're gonna help you with that too. We recommend that you call your current vendor and ask them for an updated quote so that you might be able to get updated pricing. Sometimes your current vendor doesn't respond because either they're not used to you filing a 470 yet, because a lot of you haven't ever filed, or they just are maybe a smaller company and they're not used to responding to 470. So whatever the case may be, if you don't receive a response, you can reach out and get quotes. And we want to try to help you to get as many quotes as you can so that you can get the best deal. So let's say that you put on your bidding document that you wanted 100 megabits as your lowest and 500 megabits as your highest. And you get maybe a bid for, you may get bids for a lot of different ones. So you probably ought to think about which one you're planning on using. So let's, then you would,
so you wouldn't have to evaluate every bandwidth.
Exactly.
You just need to evaluate the bandwidth that you feel is.
Or if you're not sure, you could put them in here more than once. So like, for instance, if AT&T had a bandwidth price for 100 megabits and 300 megabits, and then Spectrum had one for 100 megabits and 50 megabits, you could put both of them in here and just kind of see. In some cases, you might find that a vendor might have a better deal for a higher bandwidth. They also sometimes have better deals if you sign a multi-year contract. One of the things that you should consider when you're thinking about signing a multi-year contract is if you are allowed to sign that contract. In some cases, we know that libraries have to reach out to their city or their county administrators in order to get permission to sign a contract or an agreement. So we are encouraging you now to talk to those people. If you aren't someone who can make the final decision on your own, it's a good idea for you now to make that decision with the people who do make those decisions, so that it'll be easier when it comes to making that final decision. So back to this. So I would maybe use you have to decide if you're going to use the monthly cost to decide or the whole year to decide and which one.
Yeah, and the other thing to watch out for, if there's any one-time charges.
That's the other thing, yes. That you have to use.
Yeah, if it's new service, they may be charging you like an installation fee or special construction charge. So watch that, and you'll want to make sure that you're doing an apples-to-apples comparison of all of the bids.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good suggestion, though. If you do receive any of those, we will help you with this evaluation process. So we don't want you to start worrying, but we do want you to start thinking about this, because it's an important part of the E-rate process is this vendor evaluation. So you would put the price in this yellow blank. So I'm going to say that AT&T is $3,000 a year, and Spectrum is $3,200 a year, and Comcast was $4,000 a year. Of course, I'm making all these up, and if you notice, when I click outside of that yellow box, it automatically puts a raw score here, and it puts the weighted score under the yellow box. So you don't need to worry about that top row once you put the price in.
So Caroline, can a library evaluate based on price alone and not use any of the other criteria?
Yes, a library can do that. But you do need to make sure that you keep that documentation, that you evaluated it with only price as the deciding factor. And even if you're only using price, we do recommend that you use this to document who submitted a bid and how much it cost. As Henry says in the chat, this documentation protects you. It does. So then you would decide what you want to score the vendors for the other criteria that you chose. So say that you have had experience with Spectrum in the past and you didn't have a good experience with them. You may decide to, well, that would be a past performance issue, so I won't go to that one yet. But to meet and understand needs, you may have deciding factors that are in the proposal that you may like. Oh, well, this vendor has some services there. They have a local office or something like that. So you would put a score in each of the boxes depending on what your criteria are, and
that range is anywhere from 0 to 5.
Yes.
So 5 is the maximum number of points. And for the other criteria, two vendors could have the same score. The only criteria they can't is price unless they're exactly the same price. So.
And we could do that. We could put one that has the same price, and you'll see that you can still, especially if you have two that have the same price, it's really a good idea to use a multi-factor evaluation in that case, because then it's a better way of documenting that you selected using true, real, tangible criteria.
Right.
So let's say that your experience, you currently use Comcast, and you like them, so you give them a 5, and you've worked with Spectrum before, and I don't know, you may not have liked them as much, and you give them a 1, and AT&T a 2. I'm just throwing some numbers in here. So what happens is at the bottom it shows who wins. And you see, even though AT&T and Comcast had the same cost in there, Comcast had 95% and AT&T had 75%. And then Spectrum had 77%. Even their price was really close too. So,
and in this scenario, one of the lowest price vendors actually wins. But what if you made Comcast $3,400 a year? Does that affect the outcome? So using them, they are still the winning provider. So using the multi-evaluation factors rather than just price alone hedges you against or protects you against from having to go with just the cheapest bid that may or may not be the best overall solution for the library.
Right. I know that some librarians have told stories of, well, I selected this vendor because they were the lowest bidder and I had a bad experience.
Right.
So they don't want that to happen again. So in situations like that, we do recommend a multi-factor evaluation. But as Mel said, you can definitely just use price to make that decision. And it's also a good idea to get more than one person to score this. So you may be the technical person, but you might want to get somebody else to help you evaluate, so that you can then put all of the scores together and determine the winner. There's more than one way to handle this. Anyway, I'm wondering if anyone has questions about this or about anything else E-rate oriented that we need to talk about.
Jackie had a question there.
So Jackie says, Caroline, I have a vendor who wants to do an introduction of his company. I referred him to USAC, but he doesn't want to discuss the RFP, but just tell me what his company is capable of. Well, I suggest that you ask him to, well, first of all, I'd get him to submit anything in writing to you, and don't talk to those vendors on the phone or answer any questions on the phone. That could be difficult because someone could say that you're giving that vendor more information than someone else. So we recommend that in that case, what you would do is ask the vendor to submit his information in writing, and then you can use it as part of your evaluation process. A lot of these vendors are very aggressive and they really want to come and see you, but if you're having a pre-bid conference or something like that where everyone is invited, then I recommend that.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Are there any other questions about the 470 evaluation or the 470 process?
This bid evaluation matrix, this sample, this is something that likely Jennifer will be the one sending it to you after your bid's close. And we'll also make it available in a OneDrive folder, and we'll send that link out in next week's newsletter, so that they'll have that if they want it before their bid's close to review.
In OneDrive, please. Overdrive or OneDrive?
Well, so we are going to provide a link to you, and if you have trouble getting into OneDrive, then we can probably use Google or Dropbox, just depending on what you use. But let us know if you have trouble accessing the information that you need. So Donna, my IT department is waiting to help. They claim they have several providers. I have told IT to be sure that the providers have signed up with E-rate and then follow the procedure in the RFP. Anything else I should tell IT. So it's a good idea to communicate with them. I don't know what you mean by they have several providers lined up. I do recommend that you talk to them for sure and just explain that the providers aren't supposed to have one provider's not supposed to have more information than the other provider, and that you're trying to make sure that you respond in writing to their questions. So if these providers have questions, then you should work with your IT department to answer those questions, and then you can upload the answers to your questions into your Form 470, and then the service provider will have those answers. So Donna, if you have some more specific questions about that, give Jennifer a call or give one of us a call. You can try our hotline at 516-801-7820. That's our LCT hotline, and one of us will answer any questions that you have about that.
And Donna, the big thing is to follow the timeline that's in your service specification. So the bidders do need to submit bids during the bidding period before the posted bid closing date. And then the questions can only be submitted before the question and answer closing date. So just be mindful of your timeline and advise them accordingly.
Yes, that's really important, because if you have already filed a Form 470 and you're in your 28-day period, that is, so in the Form 470, we're encouraging you that, to communicate with to vendors only through the 470 process. So Henry, the bid shouldn't have been submitted to IT as a Form 470 bid. So it should go to Donna. So that's a really good thing to bring up, because there may be a disconnect in communication, and so if IT is getting bids that aren't directly involved with the Form 470, they may need to be resubmitted.
Yeah.
And we're encouraging that everyone put a due date to submit bids, because then that way vendors who you can do your evaluation process, and you don't have to worry about vendors continuing to send you stuff way after that deadline. So Meridian wants to know what happens if you only receive one bid, or if you don't receive any bids. So if you only receive one bid, you can reach out to other vendors and ask for quotes. And there are some resources that we can send you that show vendors that may be in your area that you can reach out to. So we do encourage that if you know of any vendors in your area that didn't respond, you can reach out to them and ask them for quotes.
And secondarily, if you reach out and you ultimately end up with one bid, that is all right. You can just document the fact that you received one bid. Send yourself an email stating, we received one bid, we found it to be cost effective, and then we select that as our winning provider. If you received 0 bids, reach out to vendors, or consider we can use your existing vendor's bill as their bid. But I would definitely start off with your existing vendor, especially if you're looking to increase your bandwidth higher than what you currently have. They'll need to submit something.
And we can let you know about where you are with your bandwidth. The LCT program has a target bandwidth, so if your library serves fewer than 50,000 people, you should think about trying to get 100 megabits per second for your internet bandwidth. And if you serve more than 50,000 people, then you should shoot for a gig. Not every library is going to need that bandwidth, and not every library is going to be able to get that bandwidth. But those are the targets. So you might want to think about using that as your range of bandwidth when you ask for quotes, just to see.
And for those of you who missed last month's webinar, this monthly webinar, we had a guest speaker on, Charles Thacker, who is a staff member of E-Rate Central, and he gave a great discussion and demonstration on bandwidth and trying to help determine what your bandwidth needs are. So that is archived on our YouTube station, and so after we send out the link for today's session, you'll have it and you'll be able to access last month's.
That's true. That's true. We have a few subscribers to our YouTube channel now, so y'all should go check it out. Because there were lots of different topics, and so if you missed one, you can always go back and look. So I don't see any more questions in text. Does anybody else have any questions about the Form 470 or evaluating bids? Okay. So if there are no questions, do you have any questions about the subsidy? That's the other thing. I know that there may be a couple of you who are new to the program that may have questions.
And this is
Okay,
Henry.
I'm
Go ahead.
sorry. I do have a question.
Okay.
All of a sudden, our bookkeeper and city manager have decided that since the subsidy money is coming in before the end of the fiscal year, it needs to be spent in this fiscal year. Makes great sense, huh?
Right. I mean, is there, could we arrange it so you receive it after your fiscal year? Because there's no, I mean, it is in advance, and you're not actually going to be spending it until the following fiscal year. Yeah. Have you already had it deposited? I couldn't remember in your case.
No, I've been holding off. It was supposed to come as a wire transfer, but I instead got a paper check. So I have the check, and I was going to see if we could split it or something.
Sure, yeah, if you could outline that in an email to me, I'll send it on to our accounting department and see kind of what we can work out.
Okay, and I just need to return this to you?
The check, you mean, or the?
Yes, the check.
Yeah, let me chat with them to see what the procedure is for that. I think we'll be able to work with you on that. I don't think we should be able to provide it based on what you need.
Thank you.
Any other questions about the subsidies? Okay, well, if you don't have questions about the subsidies or the 470s, going once, just see if there's any other thing that you might want to ask. If not, we'll go ahead and end the call. No one's speaking up, so I guess we're all done. Thank you so much for attending. We have 11 attendees. I think that's the most we've had in a little while. So,
And a special thanks to Henry Stokes for joining us this month. It's
yes.
always a treat.
Thanks, Henry. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you all.
Okay, y'all have a good week, and we'll see you soon. And if you signed up for the 470, look for an email from me soon.